We are starting out this week's crockpot video with Italian beef subs. This is one of our family favorites. I have got about a 2.5 pound chuck roast there. I am just going to add on a packet of dry Italian. Now roasts need a good 8 to 10 hours to cook, so make sure you give it enough time. If it's not shreddable by the end, then it just needs more time to cook. So just be patient and give it more time. After that, you're going to add on half of the jar of banana peppers and half of the juice that's in the jar. I like to just add the banana peppers on top, and then I like to pour the juice around the roast. And then I just add a little bit of water around the sides. You want it about halfway up the roast. I will have this recipe linked down below for you guys if you are interested and want full measurements. Like I said, this is definitely a family favorite and we truly enjoy it. To go along with our roast, I made some cabbage for the guys. I'm not a fan of cabbage, so I cook this for them because they love it. I've got a whole head of cabbage there. I've just rough chopped and added that into my slow cooker. Now I'm going to add in 1 cup of chicken broth, or like for me, I use water and chicken bouillon, but just use whatever you have on hand. And then I'm going to season it up with some Badia Complete, and I'm also going to add in some salt and pepper in a little bit. This was super easy to throw together and the boys really liked it. They said it had really good flavor and that they wanted me to remember how I made it to make it again. I've got a little bit of onion. I could have put in more, but I just used what I had. I already had that chopped up, but I would say you could add as little or as much onion as you wanted to. It's just gonna intensify the flavor. And then, not healthy, but y'all know me, we like some flavor over here. So I added in 2 good tablespoons of bacon grease, and I think that's what made it, y'all. Bacon grease makes everything better. But of course, if you don't want to use bacon grease, just use whatever fat you want to use. That's totally up to you. And then I added about 1/4 cup of bacon bits. And I feel like this is one of those recipes where you can just kind of add little or as much as you want. It's going to taste good. If you've got bacon, bacon grease, onions, seasoning, I mean, how can you go wrong? I don't see how you can go wrong. This is one of those that's just, I think, going to be delicious no matter how many bacon bits you add or how many onions you add. After giving everything a good toss, I just cooked this on low for 4 hours. I didn't start this till lunchtime because I knew, the roast needed a lot of time, but cabbage doesn't need that much time. Here is the cabbage after about 2 hours. I did want to mention that I ended up turning this on high for the last 2 hours just because they really liked their cabbage cooked down a lot, and so I knew that on high would be perfect. So here is what it looks like when the cabbage is all done. I had Luke taste it. He said it tasted amazing. Grover loved it as well. Here is the roast, and then I just took and shredded it up. It just fell right apart. We just serve ours as hoagies. Like I said, we have the buns, we've got Duke mayonnaise, Miracle Whip, and then provolone and Havarti cheese. This was definitely delicious. The boys loved the cabbage. I will have that recipe typed out for you guys because I want to be able to remember it because they said it was good and that they wanted to have it again. I just served mine with some chips since I'm weird and I don't like cabbage. we are going to do the chicken for the chicken stuffed shells. Now this one isn't a full crockpot recipe. I just made the chicken in the crockpot, and then we will take it out and stuff it. But I feel like this one could easily be made into a full crockpot recipe, and you'll see that later on, how it could easily be made into this. So to start out, you just need some chicken thighs. Y'all know I like cooking chicken thighs way better than chicken breast in the crockpot. They just do so much better, and they don't take near as long to cook also, and they're moist and juicy and delicious. So I have got 5 boneless, skinless chicken thighs, and I'm just going to season those up on both sides with some dry Italian. And then I added in some of this creamy Italian dressing. I had this in the fridge. It needed to be used. As you could see, it wasn't that much of it, probably about 1/4 of a cup, but it really did give it some really good flavor. And I think if you didn't have the creamy, you could also just add regular Italian dressing, whatever you had on hand. And then I'm just going to add a block of cream cheese on top, put the lid on it, and let that cook on low for about 4 hours. And then here is what it looks like when it is all done. We are just going to shred it up and mix in that cream cheese. And then we are going to add in a few good handfuls of spinach. It looks like a lot, but as y'all know, spinach wilts down to little to nothing. So I just kind of mix it in. I did put the lid on it for maybe like 15 minutes just to help it kind of wilt down and mix together. So at this point is when I would say that this could be a full crockpot recipe. You could either add in some cooked pasta, you could add in some cooked rice, or you could serve it over rice with extra veggies, or serve it over like Parmesan noodles, whatever you wanted to do. But for me, I stuffed mine in shells, and so I wanted to show y'all how I did that because it was easy but time consuming at the same time. I almost forgot that I added on cheese. You could still do this, of course, if you were doing this just a crockpot recipe. You can't go wrong with cheese. Cheese makes everything better. I just added that on and then mixed it in together. And then I cooked the noodles. As you've seen, I used the jumbo shells. And then for me, I took and rinsed the shells with cold water so that way I could hold them easy. And they're still al dente. You still want a little bit of bite to them. If you do them this way, you still want a little bit of bite to them so that way they'll finish cooking in the oven. But I just stuffed each shell till all the shells were gone, or till all the chicken was gone. I still had a few extra shells. Stuffed the shells. This part was time consuming, but it was so good. So to me, it was worth it. If you can have the time to do this, and it was fire. So it's hot. The chicken mixture is very hot, stuffing the shells. So I am glad that I cooled the pasta off so I was able to hold it, but my fingers kept getting burnt where I was trying to stuff the shells, but it was worth it because it was so good. The only thing I forgot to do was put a little bit of the sauce down at the bottom of the casserole pan. I used jarred Alfredo. You could easily make homemade if you wanted to. That's totally up to you, but I kept it simple and just did jarred Alfredo. I just put some of that on top, and like I said, I forgot to put it at the bottom, so I would put some at the bottom next time, put the shells on, and then top it with another can of Alfredo. I ended up just putting that one on. As you see, I have both out because I wasn't sure how much I would need. And the amount of shells and chicken, it ended up making a full 9x13 casserole plus a little, like a smaller casserole dish. But for the other casserole dish, I had some marinara sauce that needed to be used in the fridge, and so I topped it with the marinara sauce, and it was really good both ways. So I think you could easily do this with Alfredo, or you could easily do this with like spaghetti or marinara sauce. I just put this in the oven at 350 for 30 minutes and topped it with cheese. Here's what it looks like. We served it with some green beans and some garlic toast, and it was delicious. last but definitely not least, we are trying out a new recipe for queso. If you are new here, since moving, I'm not able to get my favorite queso that we were always getting from Sam's Club. Our new Sam's Club doesn't have it. And I'm so upset, y'all don't even know. So I've been on the hunt to find a copycat recipe for queso, and this was pretty good. We do wish it had a little bit of a heat to it, but that's something that I can easily add some heat to. But for our first time trying it, it was really good. I looked up several recipes online, and this is kind of what I come up with between like 3 different recipes. So we've got that whole pound of the queso blanco velveeta. I've just cubed that up. And then I'm going to add in 1 jar of green chilies with the juice. Just add that whole thing in there, minus that little stem that I had to pull out. And then 1/2 of a cup of milk. There was a couple recipes that said you could use 1/2 and 1/2, or you can add heavy cream. But the milk turned out really good, so I think any of those would be totally fine. This take no time to cook in the crock pot. It took about an hour total just to melt down, and then once it was all melted, I just took and put it on warm and kept it on warm until it was time to eat. This was really good. I will definitely keep all the ingredients for this on hand so I can make this again. We really enjoyed it. We just served ours as nachos, and I share how I do my nachos in my What's for Dinner video. I'll have that link down below for you guys. And that is it, guys. I really hope you enjoyed these super easy and delicious crockpot recipes. Our family definitely enjoyed them. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.